first, thank you so much for doing this interview with me. Looks like you're in a hotel room. Are you in Toronto right now as we speak?
I sure am. Yes.
How has it been for you so far? And I apologize because as we speak today, I think the weather looks like it's gonna like rain or something like that. So I apologize, but I'd rather have it rain now than what's gonna happen on the weekend because you're gonna be part of Boots and Hearts. How does it feel being part of that? And of course, being in Southern Ontario and doing all the touring and talking to fans and doing the media stuff and everything else.
I am so excited. Like you said, I'm in a hotel room in Toronto, and I've never been to Canada before. So it's really, really cool that, I'm coming here for my first time for my music as an artist, and I'm playing the biggest festival that there is, it sounds like. I've heard nothing but amazing things about it, and I've heard that everybody is always so excited and they're always a great crowd. So I can't wait to play for everybody and meet everybody
It's gonna be an amazing. Just curious, what day are you gonna be performing?
today.
You're performing today.
I sure
And
am.
for folks who are wondering, yes, it's Thursday as we speak. So wow, this is gonna be so cool. And of course, with big headliners with Shania Twain making her return to. I'm just curious, were you a Shania Twain fan as you were growing up? Because of course, here in Canada, she's like Canadian goddess.
Absolutely. I think everybody in country music is a fan of Shania Twain, but especially all of the females in country music. I mean, just such a trailblazer for us. And I so wish that I was getting to see her play. Oh my gosh, that has just got to be the most magical thing ever. But I grew up listening to 80s and 90s country. That's pretty much all of the country that I listened to. So I didn't know any different that there was any other country music that I was missing out on. So I grew up listening to Shania Twain, of course.
That was a good era because, of course, they were calling it back then New Country, and it was exploding all across the airwaves. Didn't matter if it was top 40 or whatever. You were hearing some kind of country artist that was performing there. Now, originally, you're from what, Georgia, correct?
Yes.
What was it like for you growing up in Georgia, and what was attracting you to country music? Because when you talk about Georgia, you can talk about rock, you can talk about soul, you can talk about jazz, and you can talk about country. There are so many elements that Georgia has. It's like a melting pot there when it comes to music.
Yeah, it definitely is. And it's so funny because everybody in Nashville, I feel like most of them are from Georgia. And most country artists seem to be from Georgia. And I don't know why that is. Obviously, it's our lifestyle, it's what we do, it's the music that we grew up listening to. But I think honestly, the reason why a lot of us gravitate towards country music in Nashville is because we're just so close to it, you know? And
Well,
it's so interesting. I'm like, I think that's the best reason that I can come up with. But for me, I mean, country music is all about storytelling. And I think that storytelling is important no matter how old or young you are. So, something that's been a big goal for me is to write about things that I'm going through and things that are hopefully relatable to all ages, no matter, if it's something that you went through or something that you're going through right now. And I feel like that's so important.
and it's so true. I've always said this: the two best storytelling genres of this day is hip hop and country music. They know how to tell stories.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. I'm glad that you said that also. Also, the other thing, too, I always like to point out Nashville. I always say this: the three big places to go to if you're going to be a songwriter. Nashville number one, LA number two, New York number three. So how does it feel when you are, you're at literally the biggest place to go to in the world for songwriting, and all the other genres, including country, are there mind scoping and writing? What is that like to be in that kind of a mix?
I absolutely love it. I haven't done any writing in LA or New York yet. I can't wait to. But I've been writing in Nashville since I was about 14, doing co-writes and things like that. And from the first time I went to Nashville when I was 11, I just felt like that's where I belonged. It felt like, oh, here's where all the musical and creative people like me landed. It's right here in Tennessee. And I just remember relating to people that were a lot older than me, but they understood the way my mind worked more than anybody that I'd ever talked to. And so it was really comforting. And I started writing in rooms when I was 14. And from the very beginning, people were so nice and so supportive and taught me everything that I know about that because before I knew literally nothing about co-writes. I had no idea what that was, and I'd only written by myself, so that was really special.
Well, let's talk about that too. So, growing up, like, when did you feel like you were actually starting to write, or did you even know you were writing songs or lyrics? Were you just maybe like writing poetry or just writing for yourself?
I was writing poetry in school. Writing and English and ELA and all of that was always my favorite subject. And um, I entered a school poetry contest, and I was like too afraid to recite it in front of my class. And but I remember that I won the contest for my whole grade, but I just was like too shy to read it in front of anybody. And then my mom had been trying to get me to write songs because I've been singing since I could talk, playing shows, playing at churches, festivals, literally everything. And I just started learning how to play instruments. And so my mom was like, "You should start trying to learn how to write songs." And I just didn't even know how to begin with that. But she read that poem and she said, "Okay, well, this could be a song." And so we turned that one into my first song,
And what was the song called?
Wildfire.
What was it about?
What'd you say? Sorry.
What was it about?
It was basically comparing myself to a wildfire metaphorically.
Oh, wow.
So our assignment was to write about wildfires. And I, of course, being the person that I am, had to go a step above that.
I love that. And just so you know, there was actually back in the 80s a wrestler known as Wildfire. He was called Tommy Wildfire Rich, and he wrestled in the Georgia area. Look that up on Wikipedia or something. You'll know what I'm talking about. So I'm going to throw in a little trivia for you there, too.
Nice.
When did you know, though, that the songwriting and the music was going to be a big part of your life? What came next? What were the steps? And also even getting signed, too.
Yeah, I think I always sang. I always sang in church. I always did shows. I was always learning instruments, but it was never a thing that was like, I don't know. I guess it just felt so out of reach, and I was so young that it wasn't ever like, this is what I'm gonna do. And I didn't, move on my own and live a certain
Yeah.
way. It was just like, okay, I'm a kid. I'm doing what I love. I've been doing this my entire life, and I started posting things on social media, and from there, my videos started to get more and more views, which is how my label Big Machine and my manager Scooter Braun saw my videos. And they literally saw one of my videos when I was 13 that I had posted, and they reached out from that, which is so crazy to me looking back because I hadn't started really writing. I just played covers for them when I met them, and for some reason they still believed in me as an artist and wanted to work with me and help me grow and give me the time that I needed to figure out what kind of artist I wanted to be. So it kind of just all happened step after step, and I sort of didn't even realize that it was happening, which is great.
But did you realize who Scooter Braun was? And did you realize what Big Machine was? Because we are talking about two powerhouses in the music industry, bar none.
I did, which is again sort of saying something because I was only 13 and I wasn't necessarily trying to study the music industry. So the fact that I still knew like, oh, Scooter Braun, that's Justin Bieber and Ariana Grande and Demi Lovato and Tori Kelly and all these people. And then on Big Machine, I'm like, oh, that's Tim McGraw and Thomas Rhett and FGL. And it's like, yeah, it was crazy.
I'm just curious, when you got signed and now you're working in this, because we're going to talk about that first EP in a second, did you get a chance, or do you remember the first time you had a chance to meet one of your heroes or those people that you heard on the radio or saw on television or anything like that? What was that experience like?
I met Tim McGraw recently, and
Ah,
like I said earlier, I grew up listening to 80s and 90s country, so Tim McGraw is one of my favorite artists just ever. And I was at a Big Machine event a couple months ago, and before that, he had duetted a cover that I did of me singing his song "My Best Friend." So he duetted that on TikTok and was just like commenting very sweet things on my video. It was so nice. And so, flash forward to this, I got told that he was going to be at this event, but I just didn't even want to process it until he was there. Just, that whole thing. It's like, don't meet your idols. That whole thing. I was like, okay, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm just going to put that out of my mind that somebody just told me that he's going to be here. And then he got there and he was so nice. And I just kind of was like, hey, I'm Callista. It's nice to meet you. And he started talking to me for a while. So sweet. And asking me about how everything's been going. And then the whole time we were talking, I could kind of tell he was trying to figure out like where he had seen me recently. He was just kind of like looking at me and he would like answer and he was so nice, but he was just kind of like, thinking really hard about something. And I was like, when we got done talking, I shook his hand and I leaned over and I was like, I just wanted to say thank you so much for duetting my cover of your song. It meant so much to me. And he was like, oh, yes, that's what it was. But he's so nice. Great dude.
That's a great story, and I got to tell you something. I've been lucky enough to interview him and his wife many times in the past, and not only is he, and both of them are great people. He's such a great guy, but he is disgustingly good looking and doesn't gain any weight whatsoever. He drives me crazy with that. But no, just down to earth, great guy. So glad you had such a great experience with him. But of course, we had a great experience with you because you released an EP. Now you did this during the pandemic, I do believe around 2020. What was that like to release music, to even record music during the pandemic? And I know Nashville was having a tough time because they were having like tornadoes and crazy things going on back then.
Yeah, it was a wild time. I mean, for everybody, nobody knew what was going on. And especially for me as an artist, I obviously had never done anything like that before, so I didn't have anything to compare it to. But looking back, it was definitely a very different experience that I had where, I couldn't come to Canada or travel. So I was in my home in Georgia and I was doing Zoom radio tour and Zoom meetings and Zoom interviews and everything. And it was so strange. I'm so thankful for it because it does make opportunities like this possible where I was able to see people that I wouldn't have been able to talk to probably for a while. And I obviously couldn't go anywhere. So it made it to where I didn't have to stop my career or my path or my plans or anything. But yeah, it was so strange for a while there.
Yeah, it
But we
was.
got back to normal.
Yeah, we did. But wow, what folks had to deal with down there. I mean, I salute you guys with such strength and bravery to deal with it. Mother Nature, and of course the virus going around. But you did finally record an EP. What was the EP called, and how does it? How did you think it represented you at that point in your career? Because this was the first time we really had a chance to be introduced to you, your story, and your music.
So, Real to Me is a song that I wrote in a writing room in Nashville when I was 14. And it was my first co-write that I ever had. So I kind of went in the most naive and ready to learn that I could have possibly been, which was something that turned into this being so special. And, I've always wanted to write things that are relatable to all ages. So this song was one that I wrote when I was 14, couldn't drive, can't drink, still can't. And like, don't do the typical things that maybe country artists do. And so I wasn't ever going to write about something that I wasn't going through or something that I wasn't experiencing. So I was talking to my co-writer Laura Veltz about that, and she just started kind of taking notes of what I was saying and how that felt, and started to study what that must be like being in this industry and figuring out who I want to be as an artist and as a person and what that pressure must feel like, but also just normal life pressure. And so we started writing about that, and it's something that has felt just the same amount of special since then. So I wanted to hold on to that for the album as well. And that the album's going to be called Real to Me, The Way I Feel. And so we're just going to be adding songs to the first EP, which is really fun.
I love it. You know, people. I have to assume people have told you you've got an old soul, don't they? They tell you
Absolutely.
that. So, where do you see yourself then in the next, say, 20 years? If we could just jump ahead, where do you see yourself?
Honestly, I'm such a hard worker and such a competitive person with myself that, I mean, wherever I'm supposed to go, I think I'm going to be there, which is such a vague answer. But whether that's radio success and a number one or a few, or streaming well, or, even if it's just going around the world like I am right now and being able to play shows for people. I feel like that's all incredibly special, and I know I'm always going to be writing songs. So,
Are you prepared to be a role model? Because that's exactly where you're heading.
thank you.
What do you hope that you can? What do you hope that you can? How do I put this? What do you hope that your achievements are going to be able to? I hope I'm saying this right. Um, Help inspire young folks as they grow up to hopefully be in the country music industry or anything that they do. Do you hope that the things that you do will be able to inspire them?
Absolutely. I think being an artist and a songwriter, that kind of goes hand in hand, especially when I am somebody that's 18 and I'm trying to write things that are honest to what I'm going through and what the world feels like to me, and hoping that people meet me there and relate to it and are also going through the same things. But yeah, I think that being a model is the same thing as being an artist and being somebody in the public eye. And you can do with that whatever you want. And for me, I want to be inspiring and hopefully encouraging the people to do whatever it is, like you said, that they want to do with their life. But in that, I'm just writing about, you know, my life experiences, whether that's being shy in school or being shy and not knowing how I'm going to get over stage fright or learning how to drive or heartbreaks or anything. So I think it's really special and people relate to that.
Well, I hope. I should say I know people will definitely. And even though, of course, this is on Thursday, what kind of show is it going to be tonight?
It's gonna be fun. I know Rico Moon is headlining, which means it's gonna be a party. It's gonna be a fun time.
I cannot wait. And last but not least, too, are we going to get you back up here at some point? Hopefully, either the end of 2022 or in 2023. I mean, you got an album EP coming out. I do believe you said October. Let's cross fingers that you're going to come back and perform all these songs for us again.
I will be playing the songs that are on this album tonight at Boots and Hearts. I've been playing them at shows for a little while because something that I like to do is test unreleased songs
Mm-hmm.
on a live audience. I feel like that's the best and most honest way to see what people like. So I will be playing them tonight, and I cannot wait for them to come out. And of course, I'll be back. Of course, I will, as soon as possible.
Fantastic. Look, I got to let you go because I know you got a lot to do. You got to rest up. You still got a big show tonight. Congratulations. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me and looking forward to speaking with you, hopefully in person, but thank God for Zoom because at least we've got this. Congratulations. Enjoy Toronto. Enjoy Southern Ontario. Enjoy Canada. And looking forward to having you back again.
Oh, thank you. Nice to meet you.